Are you new to Articulate Storyline 360 and don't know where to start? Well, this is a crash course for you. I've been doing YouTube videos. I've been teaching about Storyline for a long time, but I've realized that I've never actually done a crash course in one of my YouTube videos of like a newbie, somebody who's just getting started with Storyline and wants to get to know, at least get their feet wet with it. Now, I do have a full course. You can check out everything on my website at learningdojo.ninja. And this covers everything from A to Z on how to get started. And we go through and build an entire course. I'm not going to do that in this course, but I at least want to get your feet wet with Storyline and talk to you about some of the things that you would want to keep an eye out for, especially if you're just getting started with Articulate Storyline. If you've used Articulate Storyline in the past and you just want a refresher on some things, this may be a good thing for you too. So let's go ahead and head on over to articulate.com. Articulate is the company that provides these different tools, and they have a product and a suite of tools that you can actually use. I'm going to go into the product section, and you can see under the Articulate 360 platform, we have a couple different tools. We have Rise 360, Storyline 360, Reach 360, and Articulate 360 Teams as well, which provides a lot of stock images. It provides tools like Rise and Storyline, which you can dive into what the differences are. They provide two different types of courses. One is a slide-by-slide type of course. The other one is more almost like interactive web pages or interactive PDFs, and you can create big, long scrolling contents with different interactions in them. And that's really the two different types of experiences, which is the reason why Storyline and Rise kind of live in two different worlds, in my opinion. You're still creating e-learning content, but you're doing it in a couple different ways. So that's the product, and you can sign up for a free trial. And once you sign up for a free trial and download it, this is the suite, the Articulate 360 suite. So you can see Storyline 360, but there's also kind of a hidden tool where Articulate first started with, which was a plugin to PowerPoint. If you keep in mind with Storyline really started out, or Articulate started out as a plugin for PowerPoint. So a lot of like the content you would build is basically just building slides inside of PowerPoint, and then Articulate added the ability to add on interactions and quizzes and other things like that, and then publish it out to an interactive e-learning course. Well, Storyline was kind of their introduction into building that without PowerPoint. So it's still slide-based, but you have more control. You have a timeline, which you don't really have a timeline. Well, not a really good timeline inside of PowerPoint. And so you had a timeline inside of Storyline, but then you can add different interactions and triggers and conditions and variables and other things like that that Storyline kind of introduced. Now, Replay 360, I honestly haven't used much at all. I think it's like a video tool. Same thing with Peak 360, a video tool as well. And then you can get into Review 360, which allows you to get feedback from stakeholders from your course. But we're just focused for this crash course, we're focused just on Storyline. So what I would do from here is I'd go ahead and click on Storyline 360. Now, like I mentioned, Storyline 360 is really revolved around the slide-by-slide experience. So you have one slide, and then you have another slide, and you have another slide. So it's basically, people have described it as like PowerPoint on steroids, which, you know, makes it almost like dumb it down a little bit, but it can do so much more than that, especially with the latest introductions or the customizations that Storyline has done. It's added a lot more ability for JavaScript and being able to inspect the JavaScript and run JavaScript inside of Storyline. So it is a lot more flexible, in my opinion, than Rise. Rise will actually allow you to build responsive websites, which is cool, responsive e-learning, but it's less customizable. So I wish that Rise would introduce some of the customizations that you can do inside a Storyline, like variables and custom triggers and custom layouts and other things like that. So I don't feel like Rise is completely a self-sustained tool at the moment, but it is more of like a quick authoring tool if I just want to get something quick out there and have it responsive. So, and Storyline can even work in Rise. So hopefully that helps. But here is my Storyline. I can come in here and create a new project. You can also record your screen. You can create software simulations inside of Storyline and even interactive software simulations where you teach someone how to do it and then you test them on how to do it as well. I cover that inside of my course. And so if you wanted to check out more of that, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on new project here. Okay, so in my project, I have a story view. Story view allows me to see the branching, and you can create different branches of, like, if the learner selects this, it goes down a different spot. If they select that, it goes down a different spot. And this allows me to see the branch and all the different branches that may happen. Or if you just have it as a linear experience, you'll see it kind of just go down here. Now, these are my different pages, and it starts me out with one page. I can double click into that page, and this is what I see as the page. Now, initially, the first thing that I do when I start a Storyline project is I resize the page, because I do not like the default sizes that come out of Storyline. So that's number one. The first thing that I do is I come into the Design tab and I click on Slide Size, and then I come into the 16:9. I start with the 16:9 ratio, but I go ahead and keep this checked here. I go ahead and at least up that to 1,000. Now, if I do that, I can then come in and click on Current Defaults, or like Adjust Default Size. This is what the default size is to begin with. And that works a little bit better, especially like on tablet devices and so forth. And then if I need to, I do this at first so I don't have to scale, because when it tries to resize things, it doesn't really do that good of a job. So I do this very first thing here. And then I save my project. So I do a Control S to save my project. And I'm going to go ahead and just call this one sample here. Now this project, and I'm going to switch back and forth because I use Parallels. Storyline is a Windows only application. So you do need to have Windows, or if you use Mac like myself, I'm definitely a Mac user. Really the only reason why I use Windows is for Storyline. But I have Parallels, or you can use something like VMware in order to run Windows, and it works kind of seamlessly back and forth between the two. So I have this story file. Now this story file is the project file. This is what I need to keep if I ever want to make changes to my course down the road. The course that learners experience on a website or a learning management system or something like that is a different type of project. It's almost like going into Final Cut or Premiere, editing your video and publishing the final output like as an MP4. The MP4 is what the viewers will see, but in order for you to see all of your cuts and your edits and to make changes to it, you need to save your project file in Final Cut or Premiere. So you have the project file, but then you produce the visible file that's going to be viewed by other people. So it kind of works similar. So if you need to make changes to your project down the road, save this story file, and this is what you open it up. And in fact, I'm not at the point where I need to publish to a learning management system or website anyways, so this is really the only file that I need to work with. As I start to add things to my project, this file size will get a lot bigger. The more you insert images and videos, the file size is going to become bigger. But you can take that file size and you can actually save it into different locations if you want to. All right, so this is my first page. Now notice up here, I'm coming back to you have different tabs here. I'm coming back to the tab that says Story View. And notice that this says Untitled Scene and Untitled Slide. If I preview this, and up on the top here under the Home tab, if I preview this, it's going to preview let's preview the entire project here. And it's going to show me where these titles actually show up. And this is where I think it's important to change these titles, because the learner is going to see this, and if you leave it as untitled and you still have the menu available, they're going to see untitled, and so to me it looks bad. But you can see right here Untitled Scene, which the scene allows us to kind of collapse and extract or expand different pages, and so we can organize things into different scenes, which we'll get into. But this is the title of my course, which I can change later. This is the scene, this is the slide, and this is how I collapse the menu and so forth. This is what the learner is going to see. They're going to see this player, and then we create the content right here. They're going to see the content, but this player kind of gets wrapped around it that allows the learner to navigate between the different pages. So they can go next, they can go back, they can look at resources and everything like that. We are just focused on the content. The player we can adjust as well, but we want to make sure that we build our content. This is where we start to build our slides. Now, this is the recommendation I usually give to any new student. If you're going to work with Storyline and you're going to learn any application, it doesn't matter what the application is. It really comes down, when you're learning it, to three different things. What elements are available in that application? And I'll explain what the elements are. What style can I do to those elements? And then what behavior can I add to those elements? So it comes down to elements, style, behavior. Elements, style, behavior. If you're familiar at all with website or any type of websites, if you have heard of HTML, that's your elements. If you've heard of CSS, that's your style. That's how you style the website. If you've heard of JavaScript, that's how you add behavior to it. We're essentially, because when we publish this out from Storyline, we are basically publishing out a website. That website has HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So if we think about that, we then come into Storyline. What elements can we start using inside of Storyline? Well, that's where we can go into the Insert tab. So these are different tabs, very similar to PowerPoint. These are different tabs that we can adjust for different settings and different types of effects and animations and other things like that. If I go into the Insert tab, this is where I can add pictures. I can add 360 images. These are shapes that I can use, text box, tables, other things. Those are your different elements. We can use these different elements. We can adjust these elements. We can layer these elements to get the exact layouts and design that we want inside of our course. And this is where, if you're first learning Storyline, start out with like, what elements can I use? And if I come in here and I insert, for example, something like a shape, well, it has a default, every element has a default value. It has a default style. So in this case, it's the color blue. But also in the case of shapes, I basically drag out the height and the width that I want to. That's the default kind of look and feel of a shape. Now from there, I can start to adjust the style and what it looks like. And when you adjust things, this is really where the Format tab comes into play, because we have our shapes, but once we want to adjust the look and the feel of the shapes, I just go into the Format. Now notice the Format tab does not show up until I actually have one of these elements selected. If I come back into Insert, let's go ahead and insert, for example, like a text box, and I'm going to just drag out a text box. Well, the Format tab is going to change. Some of the elements are the same, but it will change based on whatever element that I actually have selected. So it's good to just get in here and become familiar with the different types of things that are available. So I can insert a picture if I wanted to insert a picture, or I can insert audio, I can insert video, I can insert caption to kind of build out my slides, to build out my different pages. One thing I forgot to mention is if you go into Story View, let's double click on the scene right here. This is where I can change to something like Module 1. And then if I double click on the slide here, this is where I can just say something like Page 1. I forgot to explain that part. If you come in and preview this now, it's going to have Module 1 and Page 1 right there. And so that's how you kind of update what shows up inside of the menu. All right, so let's go back in here and let's select this object, and let's add one other thing that you can kind of come in here and add. Let's say you don't know what images you want to use. You don't know what type of text or fonts or layouts or other things that you can use in order to kind of build out your pages. Well, that's where the Content Library 360 comes into page. So if you have a subscription to Storyline 360, you have access to the Content Library. So it opens up a lot of stock images, a lot of stock video, a lot of stock audio that you can use without having to build it out yourself. And so what I would do here is I'd start to stack on and adjust my style. So we've come to learn a little bit of what the elements are. Now let's start to stylize and combine these elements in order to get the look of the different types of pages. So if I come in here and go into my, let's just start with photos. I want a nice background. And let's say I'm doing something like cooking. I'm building a Cooking 101 course. Well, I can just search for cooking, and then I can come in here and say, oh, that's a nice one. Let's go ahead and insert that one. Now the images sometimes don't fit the entire screen. If I want to, I can stretch this out, and I'm adjusting the style at this point. And so I can go ahead and stretch this out there. Now it is a little bit bigger than my page. So coming into the format tab, I can go ahead and click on crop, and then I get these black tabs that I can go ahead and stretch down and just go to the right, the page edge there. So if I come in here, I can see kind of that white edge, and just it snaps kind of to the edge there once I get close. And that way I get the exact size of the page. Now I can start to add text. I can start to add other types of visuals in order to really get the look that I want. I want to fade this out a little bit. So let me select this, go into format, and I could come into recolor and just kind of add like a dark variation. So that allows me to just get an adjustment right there. Or maybe I don't want it exactly that dark. Or let's say I don't even want it to be like black and white. I could add like a color. I can add like a light variation and other things like that. Or if I go into more variations here, I can actually pick a color and it will add that color here. But then I can also come in here and click on edit or this little color palette, and I can pick it that way. But if you select this drop down box right here, well, let me hit cancel. But if I select this drop down box, I could also do RGB. If I wanted to do that, hex value, and so forth. So that is a way to add a color if you wanted a very specific type of color. Well, let's say I don't want a specific type of color. I'm just going to do Control Z to go back, and I just want to darken it out a little bit, where you can start to combine different elements like shapes, for example. I'm going to go ahead and just drag out a shape for the entire area. And then I'm going to go into my format of the shape, and I'm going to just select this fill to be black. But if I go into this fill to be black, notice this percentage sign right here and this little dial thing right here, that changes the opacity. So I could even come in here and add, like darken it out a little bit if I wanted to, which I could probably even do. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to hit contrast or brightness. I could probably even just do that through this brightness. So yeah. There's different variations, different ways to do the same thing that you'll notice, and that's with code or any tool that you may use. One person may approach it one way, another person may approach it another way. So let's go ahead and insert here and click on text box, and let's just say Cooking 101 here. So there is my Cooking 101. I want to make this bigger. That is the default size of my font, but like most things with our elements, we can change the look, we can change the CSS, we can change the style. So I'm going to come in here and select that text, and then you'll notice under the Home tab, this is where I can adjust things about my text. It's a little bit different than the Format tab. The Format tab is mostly to do with like the background color and other things, but for text, it's under the Home tab. So I could choose my font, but let's up this size to be something very drastic here. We can also change that to be bold. Let's bold it. Maybe that's a little too drastic, so let's take it down to about 80. And there we go. And I could even change this font so it pops out a little bit more to be something like white right there. There we go. So it's already kind of looking a little bit different. So you're using these different elements. You're changing the style of the elements in order to get the look that you want. And this is how you build out all your different pages. So I could do things, let me actually create a new page. So I'm right clicking here and I'm going to create a new page. And this is going to be my basic, I'm just going to create a blank page here. And I'm going to call this one page 2. And this is where I like to just use shapes for different kinds of things. So I could take my text box, my shape, and I could just fill it halfway. Go into format, change the color to something like red, and then all of a sudden I kind of have like this half and half look. Or I can add an image and I can crop it to only be half, and I can put text on the right hand side. A lot of different possibilities to kind of adjust the style of your pages. If you want to learn more about different possibilities and different styles and different layouts and other things like that, that's really where diving into my course comes into play. So because we cover all the different types of pages. But we've really covered the different elements that you can use. We've also covered the different ways that you can adjust under the Format tab, the style. But one more thing I want to cover in just kind of this crash course is the interactivity. This is where you can add the behavior to different objects. So if I come in here and let's just add some lorem ipsum text. This is a shortcut. If you just type in equals lorem open close parentheses and hit enter, it's going to add some sample text to whatever object, shape, or anything that you have selected. You can add text that way. But I'm going to come in here and insert something that the learner is going to interact with. Let's say I'm going to create a tab or some type of click here to explore more, or like maybe even a menu navigation or something. I could just come in here and say, let's call this tab 1, or let's just call this option 1. So tab is really like click and you'll see something, some more information. So if you've heard of tab interaction or anything like that, it's more of like multiple options to see additional text. So what I want to do, let's just do a simple navigation, but on any object or any image, you can add interactivity. This is one thing I love about Storyline compared to other authoring tools. Other authoring tools limit you on the type of interactions you can, or the type of objects you can add interactions to. But with Storyline, you can add an interaction to any object. So I'm going to come in here, and this is really where my triggers panel comes into play. If I click on this trigger, it's going to go ahead and allow me to jump to a certain slide. I could show a layer, which we haven't gotten into layers, but you can stack things on a page and you can create different layouts on the page as well. I could play a piece of media. I could adjust a variable and keep track of some information. I could play a certain timeline. I can execute some JavaScript. I can submit a quiz. I can stop media. I can emphasize an object. So there is so much that you can do. I'm going to go ahead and just say jump to slide. And there's really, in this trigger wizard, there's 3 different things that we focus on. What action is happening, when that object happens, and in what conditions does that object happen? Does it always run? Then if it always runs, I don't need to have any condition. But if it only runs in certain situations, or if they visited, you only want it to run if they visited all 3 different options, then you'll want to add something like a condition. And I have different videos you can check out on conditions and variables and other things like that. Here is where I think is probably the most underutilized, which is the when. Right now, because I had the square, the rectangle selected, it'll automatically add the when right here. But I can select this drop-down box and I can say, okay, instead of just when the user clicks on that button, maybe when the user double clicks or right clicks or even just hovers over it, or maybe when the slide moves, or when a variable changes to a certain amount, or when the timeline starts, or when the timeline ends. There is a lot of different possibilities that I think most Storyline developers don't explore in this when section that can make it a lot more interactive. So if anything, get to know or try out the different when sections here and just see what it does. See if it creates different types of environments, or you can create when a mouse hovers over something, or if you when a variable is a certain amount. There's a lot of possibilities, and a lot of that happens in the when section and the condition section as well. All right, so I'm just going to keep it as when the user clicks, but under the action, we're jumping to a slide, but we need to define what slide. So I can select this drop down box, and this is where I can jump them to a different scene, to a different slide, something like that. But what happens now if I click OK is it adds this trigger to my little trigger window here. Then I could come in here and I can modify it through this drop down box. I could delete it if I wanted to. I could copy it and paste it to another object. But it's really, that is the behavior here, is it's when this user clicks on the object, it is now running, it's jumping to a specific page. Let me actually adjust this to jump to, instead of the next slide, let's go back to page 1. And I'm going to preview this entire project here. And I'm going to click on next here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this option 1. Notice when I hover over it, the mouse changes, letting me know that this is interactive. So I can go ahead and click on that and it jumps me back. We've explored a lot, and this is very kind of a crash course. Just get to know what I can start doing inside a Storyline. If you want to explore more, head on over to my website and at learningdojo.ninja. You can also check out previous blog posts if you just want to see different possible things inside a Storyline. You can download templates. You can go ahead and check out free courses covering everything from A to Z inside of Storyline, or other tools like Captivate, XAPI Fundamentals, Camtasia, Rise, Custom SCORM, and HTML5 video. That will give you the foundation of Storyline, everything from A to Z. This was just meant to give you a quick introduction and to see if you wanted to explore it more or not with my Udemy course, or just in general, if you wanted to just check out more YouTube videos on how to get started with Storyline. Hopefully this is a good introduction to you. I know I probably went fast. Go ahead and adjust the speed on different things, but I wanted to fit as much information as I possibly could in this 20 minutes or however long this is going to be. And I just wanted to put as much information to get you started. Now, one last thing, when you're done creating your content, you go into the Home tab and then you click on Publish. You're gonna publish this out and put it somewhere. And this could be a review link if you want other people to comment on it, or if it's just going to be on your website. If it's on your website, it's not going to be tracked, so keep that in mind, but you could put content on your website. You could publish it to an LMS or a learning record store as well. So 2 different learning systems that will then track that content and what the learner, it'll assign the content, it'll track if they've completed it, and everything like that. So that's really the main goal, is you build it inside of Storyline, but then you publish it inside of a learning management system. And this could be whatever learning management system your organization has. Most all organizations have a learning management system. And so you should be able to take it from Storyline, publish it there. That's all I have for today. So if you like this video, head on over to my YouTube channel, click that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That really helps my channel, allows me to continue to grow. And my goal for this YouTube channel is really to help you become the best learning developer that you can. So to really help you excel in your job and create interactive content that's not just static or anything like that, but that pushes the limits of e-learning. So if you want to see something else, head on over to this video and make a comment down below and let me know what else you want to see. Like, what other videos am I not covering that you want to see as well? So that was my quick introduction to Storyline. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in another video.